The United Nations Security Council will hold an emergency meeting to discuss Russia's latest large-scale attack on Ukraine. Russia firing a hypersonic missile on the city of Lviv, hitting critical infrastructure on Friday. Russia also conducting a series of strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure and drone manufacturing sites. Residents say these strikes have damaged heating systems.
It's not the first winter, but the problem here is clearly very cold. We need to work fast. If we would need that, we can still import electricity from our partners from abroad. I'm very worried about hospitals, maternity hospitals, about families with small children.
The Oreshnik missile also has the capacity to be a nuclear weapon, raising concerns for world leaders.
And Dr. Sussex, give us a sense of how successful Russia has been able to be at evading sanctions. When this war first broke out, there had been that concerted effort from the US and European allies to essentially try and isolate Russia, punish it financially, but nonetheless, Putin's still managing to make advances in Ukraine.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, the success of the shadow tankers has been quite significant in just dodging sanctions. The Russians have been ramping up oil sales to China, as we know, and also ramping up oil sales to India in order to make up the difference of the West basically getting out of the business of buying Russian oil. So it has been effective in driving the Russian war economy. And contributing towards, the gains that it's been making in Ukraine.
We enter 2026 with still incredible uncertainty over whether there is any chance of a big peace deal being struck between Ukraine and Russia. The talks ongoing. I saw the US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff meeting with the Ukraine's president. We saw this big meeting in Paris yesterday, the coalition of the willing coming together to try and reach what it will look like on the other side of a peace deal. What stood out to you in terms of what was agreed?
For Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that came out was that that there was a very firm sense of European desire to give security guarantees to Ukraine. In particular, France and the United Kingdom saying that they were going to establish military hubs on Ukrainian soil. And also, I think the second thing was the agreement by the US, even though it was watered down a bit from what the Europeans originally wanted, agreement that they would provide, intelligence support, perhaps drones, perhaps also some logistics support in order to provide that sort of deterrence against future attack if in fact there's a peace deal. And I think that that's probably acceptable to Kyiv, to Ukraine. Whether it's acceptable to Vladimir Putin, look, I really have my doubts, simply because Putin gives as one of the reasons that he invaded Ukraine concern about NATO troops being close to Russia's border. And in a post-conflict situation, this would mean that NATO troops were very much close to Russia's border. So it may in fact be a non-starter to him. And if that's the case, then the war just continues, I'm afraid.
Yeah, for Australia's side of things here, there has been talk last year about a potential multilateral deployment. No commitment at this stage from Australia. Is that likely something that would be requested of allies in the Indo-Pacific?
Yeah, well, look, one thing that we're doing, of course, is in terms of our foreign policy is really amping up our cooperation with the European Union. On the one side, a free trade deal, and on the other one, a deal over sort of strategic and defence relations. And I think probably there would be kind of an expectation in Brussels that, well, if Australia is going to expect, close relations with the EU, the ability to buy advanced European defence tech, and also have European military assets in our own region contributing towards stability in the region, because it's very much one riven by major power contest, then Australia should probably, give a bit the other way. What form that takes, though, is something that needs to play out. We have been providing, for instance, a wedge-tail aircraft to do surveillance and monitoring. Might well be that that's part of the ask. Might also be, of course, that Australian ADF service personnel who have been training Ukrainian fighters, soldiers, will be asked to continue that job. And that's probably something that certainly both, the current Albanese government and the coalition would probably quite happy to do.
Yeah. Dr. Matthew Sussex, always appreciate your analysis. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Trudy.